Now you have to hear this. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who we all know has been a fierce critic of the Western countries' support to Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza, he has now brutally exposed American Secretary of State and war criminal Antony Blinken. How? Because he has revealed that Antony Blinken had told him not to be friendly with Russia. Yes, for all the talks of Americans that they don't interfere in other people's internal politics. Here was Antony Blinken, American Secretary of State, literally number 2 in the hierarchy of the government, telling another head of state of a sovereign country not to be friendly with Russia. Now, how did Anwar Ibrahim react? According to him, he bluntly rejected Blinken's advice. Ibrahim was speaking at an event organized by National Defense University UPNM in Kuala Lumpur last week when he decided to reveal the content of his conversation with Blinken. Quite extraordinary. There was a student who asked a question on Gaza. Now, answering his question on Gaza, Ibrahim said that he had met Blinken on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Laos last month, and in that meeting, according to him, he and Antony Blinken, they had a closed door meeting for 1 hour where they discussed the situation in the Middle East and other topics affecting the global geopolitics. Now, continuing his conversation, Anwar Ibrahim says that Blinken told him not to be friendly with Russia, to which the Malaysian Prime Minister said, and I quote, "I replied, that's your issue. Don't instruct us. We are an independent, sovereign country. We make our own decisions for our own people and our own nation." End of quote. Now I'm going to play this clip. This is what he has said in Malay language. What I have just said is a broad summary of what Anwar Ibrahim said while speaking in Malay. Now, if you are watching this video from Malaysia and you are able to translate what he said in Malay accurately in English, please do so and write in comments, because I would like to incorporate the exact translation in the description of this video.
Jadi kalau saudara tanya saya, memang kadang-kadang sahabat-sahabat saya beri nasihat, Anwar, kita negara kecil, jangan keras sangat. Nanti kita pelaburan di Amerika tinggi. Tapi saya kawan baik juga, saya baik juga. Hari itu di BNTN saya jumpa Antony Blinken 1 jam. Bab pelaburan, tapi bab Gaza kita sebut juga ya. Bab Lebanon kita sebut. Jadi saya berkawan. Amerika kata janganlah baik dengan Putin, Rusia. Saya kata itu masalah kamu lawan. Janganlah suruh kami pula. Kami ini negara merdeka dan berdaulat. Jadi kami buat keputusan untuk kepentingan rakyat kami dan negara kami. Oh, dengan China begitu juga. Problem. Tapi apakah kita hentikan hubungan baik dengan Amerika? Tidak juga. Ada keupayaan, ada tahapnya. Jadi dalam hubungan antarabangsa tu, tak apa kalau esok kalau Profesor Yu setuju, saya pergi kuliah tambahan di situ.
Itu memang dialu-alukan. Betul-betul kita harapkan Muhammad jadi profesor, membantu.
This truly shows the level these rogue US politicians can go to in their bid to reap benefits of unjust wars. They are nothing but warmongers. Although they preach peace, but their every single action, both behind the scenes and in public, is aimed at creating unrest. We all know that Russia and Ukraine would have been in peace if this wasn't for the American dirty design to expand the NATO to the doorstep of Russia. America loves meddling with the internal affairs of other countries and doesn't hesitate from engineering regime change whenever and wherever it feels it needs to, and it can. Georgia is a classic example and more recent example. Remember how Blinken's minion Matthew Miller reacted the day American-sponsored political outfits failed to win the Georgian elections?
The Georgian people went to the polls on Saturday in an election environment shaped by the ruling party's policies, including misuse of public resources, vote buying, and voter intimidation. This contributed to an uneven playing field and undermined public and international trust in the possibility of a fair outcome. We join calls from international and local observers for a full investigation of all reports of election-related violations and urge respect for the fundamental freedoms of expression and peaceful assembly. We encourage Georgia's governing officials to consider the relationship they want with the Euro-Atlantic community, rather than strengthening policies that are praised by authoritarians. More than 80% of the Georgian people want to see the country integrated into the EU and NATO. The Constitution of Georgia, proposed and backed by the current governing party, stipulates the pursuit of membership in these Euro-Atlantic institutions. All parties campaigned in support of this goal, but the governing party has adopted measures inconsistent with that course. The Georgian government can recommit to its democratic Euro-Atlantic trajectory by respecting the rule of law, addressing deficiencies in its electoral process, withdrawing and repealing anti-democratic legislation, and undertaking significant effort on outstanding EU accession reform recommendations. We have consistently urged the Georgian government this year to walk back its anti-democratic actions and return to its Euro-Atlantic path. We do not rule out further consequences if the Georgian government's direction does not change.
What seems to have enraged Blinken is Anwar Ibrahim's recent visit to Russia. Ibrahim had met Vladimir Putin and had quite a long discussion. America is particularly concerned by the growing stature of BRICS, a group of emerging economies that is seen as a counterweight to the West. Now, BRICS also recently added Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand as partner countries when it held its meeting in Russia last month in Kazan. Now, Malaysia being an ASEAN member hasn't gone down well with America. Hence, this not so friendly advice to Malaysia to end friendly relations with Russia. But I'm glad Anwar Ibrahim has stood firm and snubbed this war criminal called Antony Blinken. America is also concerned by the fact that ASEAN may become significantly weak if its member states join BRICS. That worry was evident on Blinken's face when he faced media on the sidelines of the last ASEAN summit on 11th of October last month.
What will future policy for ASEAN under the incoming possible presidential candidates is still looking a bit blur and a bit muddy. So I was wondering, for ASEAN, what can we expect, for US-ASEAN relations to look like in January? And also, what concerns have the ASEAN leaders shared with you about any new changes?
Look, I can't, as many of you know, as I like to say, I don't do politics, I do policy. So all I can really speak to is the policies of the United States and how we're pursuing those policies now. Any speculation about the future is just that, speculation, except for this. I think there's a profound understanding in the United States that, as I said, and as President Biden has said, our future is in the Indo-Pacific. We're a Pacific power ourselves, but as we look at the part of the world where there's such extraordinary growth, extraordinary energy, extraordinary innovation, it's in the Indo-Pacific. And everything that we've done over the last 3.5 years has been to strengthen our ties, deepen our engagement, build new partnerships in a whole variety of ways, both with individual countries, but also with critical institutions like ASEAN. I mentioned that this is my 20th trip to the Indo-Pacific as Secretary of State. So yeah, there are a lot of other things going on out there in the Middle East, Russia and Ukraine. But that's just one small piece of evidence that even with everything else going on, our focus has remained intensely on this region. And again, it's because it's so critical to our own future, to the lives and livelihoods of Americans. So given that, it's my belief that that basic approach will continue, irrespective of who's president, because it's so manifestly in our interests. And I think there's strong support in Congress for our engagement in the region, across parties and across both houses of Congress, and I don't see that changing. So, as long as we remain resolutely focused on the interests of our people, those interests bring us, call on us to continue to do even more, not just with ASEAN and the countries that make up ASEAN, but throughout the Indo-Pacific. And I really strongly believe that that's a matter of bipartisan consensus and something that's not going to change.
When Blinken says he doesn't do politics, please rest assured he's only done politics in his term as the US Secretary of State in the last 4 years. And why single out Blinken? This is exactly what his predecessors have also done. They are nothing but warmongers. Coming back to Anwar Ibrahim, this guy has been consistent. There is no denying the truth. You remember in March this year how he had earned global plaudits when he chose to embarrass the German Chancellor by highlighting the Western countries' hypocrisy on Israel?
What about the settlements? What about the behavior of the settlers now, continuous, daily? What about the dispossession, their land, their rights, their dignity, their men, their women, their children? Are these of no concern? Where have we thrown our humanity? Why this hypocrisy? Why this selective and ambivalent attitude towards one race and one another? Is it because they are colored or they are different religion? These questions are raised because there's a lack of consistency. If you ask me, yes, the solution, yes, two-state solution. Yes, recognize the rights of every single individual, be it a Muslim or a Jew or Christian. I make no myths about it.
You can watch the full speech here. So I'm not surprised by the Malaysian PM's blunt talking in front of Blinken, whose days as the US Secretary of State are numbered anyway. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymecoffee.com and Patreon. If you do think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.